Hi everyone, this is Kaylee Root speaking, and I would like to welcome you back on behalf of the Technology Department to a new school year at Ovid-Elsie Area Schools. We decided to experiment with some flipped technology professional development. So what I plan to do here is just briefly cover some content that was covered during our summer professional development series. This video will go over the basics of cloud computing, which if you navigate to the 21 things for the 21st century educator, the number one thing right now is cloud initiation, which covers the use of our things like our network space here at Ovid-Elsie and Google Docs, and the different types of ways that you can use that cloud storage and what it is and things like that. So I'm going to start this presentation. What this will go over are the basics of cloud computing. And then on Thursday, August 29th of next week, we will have a half-hour face-to-face session together at each school that covers more on specific objectives of the use of Google Docs. So the main goals of this session were to define cloud computing and also get familiar with our cloud storage options here at Ovid-Elsie, which include both our network storage space and our Gmail accounts, which we have access to all Google Apps for education through. To define cloud computing, it is essentially used as a metaphor for the internet. So if you are cloud computing, the only two things that you should require are internet access and a device which you're accessing the internet through. So in order to accomplish a task, if you need software to do that, like a software program like Microsoft Office, it's not considered cloud computing. If you need hardware, it's also would not be considered cloud computing. If you need anything tangible outside of the internet and your device, so like a software program where you're creating the content or hardware where you're storing your content, that would not be considered cloud computing. Basically, all of the activity that you are doing should take place on a remote server, and all that you should need is internet access and a device to access the internet through. So that would be your computer or your laptop, your iPad or your smartphone. So there are different types of clouds, and we have two different types of clouds here at Ovid-Elsie available to us. The first would be our private cloud, which operates solely for Ovid-Elsie Area Schools, and this is connected to Active Directory. This is what we log on to and access when we log on to any district computer using our Active Directory logons. This is only available to the users within our district that have signed electronic use forms. And then we have access to a public cloud, which is our Google Cloud, and we have access to that through our Gmail accounts. That's open to anyone in the world using Google. The main uses for cloud computing would be data storage and backup and file sharing. So you have the ability to store data on your cloud, whether it be your P-Space here at Ovid-Elsie or your Google Drive on your public cloud. So if you have files on your computer here at Ovid-Elsie and you want to move them over to your P-Space, that would be considered both data storage and data backup, because you're storing those files on a remote location outside of your local disk on your computer. So it's freeing up the storage space on your computer, and then also you could consider backing up that information, because if your computer ever crashes, your data isn't tied to that one machine. You'll be able to access it from any other computer in the district. So you could, that could be considered backing up your data. The same goes for Google Docs. If you put your data in the cloud on Google Drive, that is accessible not only from any computer here in the district, but any computer in the world where you have internet access. You can share files through both types of clouds. There are a lot more uses of file sharing through a public cloud. You can share through Google Docs. You don't have to just be a Google Docs user to share those files. You can take that link and post it to your course website, as long as it's a public document in your Google Drive. Anyone that clicks on that link, so a student or a parent, they'll still be able to pull up that page and view that image that you have on your Google Drive. There are ways of sharing on our network space, James Fisher and I use a shared tech folder in our shared space. What we do is we stick a lot of software programs on that we use to work on computers, and then that way, no matter what computer we're logged into here in the district, we can just go to that folder and use that software program on the computer rather than having to carry around a hard drive that has all of the software items that we're using on computers. So this might look familiar. A lot of you do use your personal space. You would access this through the Start menu on your PC and go to your computer. So if you're storing things right to your computer, they're being stored here in your local disk, and those items are stored right on the computer on your desk. So they're not stored anywhere else, and they're tied to that machine, so if anything happens to that machine, they go with it. So this is your personal space on our server, on our private server. So this would be accessible through any computer here in the district. A lot of you do use your PSpace, but if you don't, I've created a step-by-step tutorial of how you would move files from your computer over to your PSpace. And what I did was, in the email that I sent this video out in, I attached this tutorial to it. So if you want to go back and play around and try and move things over to your PSpace in the meantime, all you have to do is follow the steps on this sheet and you should be all set. So we're not going to really get into Google Apps for Education, the public cloud right now, because those are the things that we're going to do in our face-to-face session on Thursday. And we have several objectives for that face-to-face session. Today, basically, we just wanted to familiarize ourselves with cloud computing and kind of understand what cloud computing is and where things are stored and what are the benefits of using it. Our goals and objectives for the session on Thursday will be really specific to Google Drive, how to share and create and open Google Docs and use those basic functions within it, how to organize your materials in your Google Docs and collaborate with others, and then do other really specific things if you are interested in getting into those, like viewing revision history, which is a good tool for English courses, and if you're having your students create documents in there. So in the meantime, if you feel like exploring anything Google Apps for Education related, here is a good source for that. Otherwise, I will see you on Thursday.